Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Rangana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Rangana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Rangana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Radha Sa Pre Vrajagachal Jastotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki ISKCON BBT Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Samavata Bhakta Vrinda ki Hare Nam Sankirtana ki Ram Tara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jani Thai Gaur Primanandari. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurimmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jita Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tirubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasayanam Maha. The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim Yadkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yadkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. The last opportunity we have to sit at this location, auspicious place. This will be where Lord Narayan will be giving his darshan. Surya Narayan. So we continue our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1 of the first canto, and we are on text number 2. I will read the verse once, and then we had started yesterday, and someone can try to find where we left off yesterday from the purport. Dharma projita kaitaputra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapo tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Pararisvaraha Sadyo Rija Varudyate. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, and this Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Asadeva. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Which paragraph we had read last?
Second paragraph.
We had read the second.
What we did?
Second over.
Over.
We start from
Third.
Yes. So we're beginning, for those who may have a copy of the Bhagavatam, we're beginning on the third paragraph of the second text. Yes. In the Vedas, the above mentioned four activities that we will recall, which are, in Sanskrit, dharma,
Artha, Kama,
kama, moksha. Correct. So in the Vedas, the above mentioned four activities are prescribed in the regulative way so that there will not be any undue competition for sense gratification. But Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all these gratificatory activities. It is purely transcendental literature, which can be understood only by the pure devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification. This is a very interesting and important point, actually. Our acharyas explain how the Vedic literatures, there are basically three sections, isn't it? Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. And the vast majority of the Vedic literatures are actually encouraging people to engage in pious activities, religious activities, but for some material gain,
Karma,
Karma Kanda. And those are a little bit more advanced,
Kanda.
Jnana Kanda. Yeah. So one may wonder, why is it that the Vedic literatures are encouraging people in material activities? I mean, or materially motivated activities. And that is, of course, because the vast majority of people are conditioned, are highly materially motivated. If there's no
Material gain.
if there's no carrot at the end of the stick, they won't go. They won't go forward. Yeah. So, but at the same time, literatures like the Srimad Bhagavatam are there, and they stand out as those completely purified transcendental literatures, and that this verse in particular is explaining this point, that the unique feature, special characteristic of the Bhagavatam is that it is completely a transcendental literature. Therefore, it is called Amala Purana. Amala Purana, completely pure transcendental literature. So Prabhupada continues here in the purport. In the material world, there is keen competition between animal and animal, man and man, community and community, nation and nation. But the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. They do not compete with the materialist because they are on the path back to Godhead, where life is eternal and blissful. We are on our way to a life that is eternal and blissful. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Most people in the material world, they don't know this.
Yes.
And therefore, because we are cultivating this knowledge, we lose interest. We lose attraction for things that are, on the material level, in terms of, because most people, as mentioned here, are competing materially to advance in their job or to outdo someone else. Such transcendentalists are non-envious and pure in heart. In the material world, everyone is envious of everyone else, and therefore there is competition. Of course, there's also competition in the spiritual world. But it is transcendental competition. Just like many years ago, I was actually, I had not come to India yet, but I was hearing one lecture from one of the early sannyasis, Achyutananda Swami, who took sannyas at the same time as Jayapataka Maharaj many years ago, way back in 1970. And he was present at the first and second Mayapur festival, and so he was giving some a lecture. He was very good in kirtan, very excellent mridanga player. He learned all the Vaishnava songs. His name is there actually in the Vaishnava songbook. So he was giving one, preparing the devotees. They were going to Navadvip for Sankirtan. And he was preparing them. That you know, because everyone, especially from outside of India, wow, you know, coming to Holy Dham, you know, Mayapur Dham, Vrindavan Dham, they think that it is directly, actually it is, but we can't see it, directly the spiritual world. So he was telling them, when we go to Navadvip Dham, you will see many things. And you will see some Dhamvasis, some residents of Navadvip, maybe smoking bidis or things like that. So then he says something very interesting. He says, although they are performing some rascal activities, they are transcendental rascals. So don't criticize them. Yeah. But the transcendental devotees of the Lord are not only free from material envy, but they are well-wishers to everyone. And they strive to establish a competitionless society with God in the center. The contemporary socialist conception, that means communism, of a competitionless society is artificial because of the socialist state, because in the socialist state there is competition for the post of dictator. From the point of view of the Vedas or from the point of view of common human activities, sense gratification is the basis of material life. There are three paths mentioned in the Vedas. One involves fruitive activities to gain promotion to better planets. Another involves worshipping different demigods for promotion to the planets of the demigods. And another involves realizing the absolute truth and his impersonal feature and becoming one with him. These are mentioned in the Vedas. The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is not the highest. Above the impersonal feature is the Paramatma feature, and above this is the personal feature of the absolute truth, or Bhagavan. Srimad Bhagavatam gives information about the absolute truth in his personal feature. It is higher than impersonalist literatures and higher than the Jnana-kanda division of the Vedas. Is even higher than the Karma-kanda division and even higher than the Upasana-kanda division. So it is completely above all of these three divisions. Why? Because it recommends the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. In the Karma-kanda, there is competition to reach heavenly planets for better sense gratification, and there is similar competition in the Jnana-kanda and Upasana-kanda. The Srimad Bhagavatam is superior to all of these because it aims at the supreme truth, which is the substance or the root of all categories. From Srimad Bhagavatam, one can come to know the substance as well as the categories. The substance is the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord, and all emanations are relative forms of energy. So we can understand by these comments or by this explanation how and why the Bhagavatam is especially favored by Vaishnavas. It is the most important and most attractive of all Shastra. Then Prabhupada continues, nothing is apart from the substance, but at the same time the energies are different from the substance. This conception is not contradictory. Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly promulgates this simultaneously one and different philosophy of the Vedanta Sutra, which begins with the Janmadhyasa Sutra. This knowledge that the energy of the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord is an answer to the mental speculator's attempt to establish the energy as the Absolute. When this knowledge is factually understood, one sees the conceptions of monism and dualism to be imperfect. So sometimes people, they will ask, are you monists or are you dualists? What's your answer? We are both.
Yeah, both.
Simultaneously one and different. We believe in God and the spirit soul as being one in quality, but not one in quantity. Yeah. So sometimes Prabhupada would be asked this kind of question, you are following monism or you're because actually we present ourselves as being what is called monotheistic, believing in one God. Then why you speak about demigods? There's one God, but of course we believe in one God, but in many ways we believe in so many expansions of God also. But our understanding, of course, is that those expansions are that same God, but in different features. And Prabhupada explains something very important here also. When this knowledge is factually understood, we just read this, one sees the conceptions of monism and dualism to be imperfect. Development of this transcendental consciousness, grounded in the conception of simultaneously one and different, leads one immediately to the stage of freedom from the threefold miseries. That's important, because everyone is disturbed and suffering due to the presence of these threefold mysteries of life. But someone who cultivates this understanding, as Prabhupada explains here, if it is properly cultivated, one immediately comes to that stage of freedom from the miseries, threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are, number one, those miseries which arise from the mind and body, adhyatmic. Those miseries inflicted by other living entities, adhibotic. And three, those miseries arising from natural catastrophes over which one has no control, adhidaivic. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the surrender of the devotee unto the absolute person. Srimad Bhagavatam begins there, and of course ends there also. It immediately establishes this reality, this tattva, that there is, not only there is a God, but that God is a person. And not only is a person, but he's Krishna. He's the person Krishna, not any other person. Most people have a hard time believing that there's God. What to speak of
Krishna.
a person, and what to speak of that person being Krishna. The devotee is fully aware that he is one with the Absolute, and at the same time in the eternal position of servant to the Absolute. In the material conception, one falsely thinks himself the Lord of all he surveys, and therefore he is always troubled by the threefold miseries of life. In the materialistic concept of life, we try to control material nature by competing with others, and therefore we can never win or overcome the material nature. We cannot stop or negate the threefold miseries of life. But one who is a devotee, his consciousness is such that although the threefold miseries of life are there, it's like when winter comes, it's not that because I'm a devotee, there's no cold, or it's not because I'm a devotee, I don't get hurt in accidents or whatever. Because sometimes people ask, but you're a devotee, why this is happening to you? I was asked that quite often, but you're a devotee. The difference is that the material nature acts upon everyone, but depending on the consciousness that we develop, one who is on the bodily platform, on the materialistic platform, becomes immediately affected, disturbed. And someone who's cultivating spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, learns to, as Krishna explains, tam titikshava, tolerance, one learns to tolerate. Matra sparshas konteya, shitosna sukha dukada, agama paino nityas, tam titikshas bharata. One of the very early instructions given by Krishna. How far have we come in tolerating this one and that one, this thing and that thing? But it's one of the primary important instructions given by Krishna. But as soon as one comes to know his real position as transcendental servant, he at once becomes free from all miseries. That's why it is explained that Bhagavad Gita, of which Srimad Bhagavatam is an extension or an expansion, Bhagavad Gita is the best and the most advanced book on psychology. Nowadays many people go to see psychologists because many people have mental stress and mental... So actually the best remedy for a disturbed mind is what is taught in Bhagavad Gita. Because when we know we're not the body, when we cultivate this understanding, when we know about the law of karma, that things are happening all the time, why this one doesn't like me? Well, probably because you did something to him before. Why he's kicking me? Well, you probably kicked him before. Nothing happens without a reason or a cause. So devotees who actually cultivate this knowledge, this understanding, therefore, I was hearing how in Montreal, this was, I think in 1967, I was not there. Actually, I was in Montreal, but I was not there when this incident happened. I mean, it was, at that time his name was Gopal, who later on became Gopal Krishna Maharaj. So he was, he came in contact with devotees, and then there was one Indian gentleman who had come to know about Prabhupada and was telling Gopal, you should come and meet him, So he did, and after some time, the devotees arranged some kind of a program, public program, and Prabhupada spoke very nicely. Many students and other Indian people were there. And then at the end of the program, that very same person who was speaking about Prabhupada to Gopal raised his hand to ask a question. So Prabhupada acknowledged him, but actually he didn't have a question. He started to actually criticize in public Srila Prabhupada. And everyone was surprised because he was, he was like being cultivated as a devotee. And the interesting thing is that Srila Prabhupada, he did not say anything. He just allowed that person to criticize, let's say, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And then this was being related actually by Gopal Krishna Maharaj many years after. And then he was saying how Prabhupada was about to leave, because at that time Prabhupada stayed like 3 months approximately in Montreal. He was about to leave Montreal, so he asked Gopal, can you call that person? Call him before I go. So he was surprised why Prabhupada wants to see him. This guy's a rascal. He criticized Prabhupada so much. And so Gopal was very surprised. That person actually came, and Prabhupada was just, encouraging him to associate with devotees and to read his books like that, encouraging him to practice Krishna consciousness. And Gopal was surprised actually, and he had asked Srila Prabhupada, but this person, he behaved very badly like this. And then Prabhupada's response was that, I must have done something before, like in previous life or something, whatever. So this is the, we cannot artificially think like that, but some, because when it happens, it's like we're ready to punch the guy in the nose, right? But one who's trained will know how to, will restrain oneself, yeah. This is what is being mentioned here. So this is a very nice point, that actually as soon as one comes to know his real position as transcendental servant, he at once becomes free from all the miseries. So what is the secret to become freed from all miseries? It's mentioned here. To fully understand. The more we understand that we are a servant of Krishna, the more we understand we are a servant of Krishna, eternal servant of Krishna, That means the more we understand we are a spirit soul, but at present conditioned in the material world due to karmic reaction. Therefore, everything that happens to us is coming to us. Yeah, nothing happens by chance. As long as a living entity is trying to master material nature, there is no possibility of his becoming servant of the Supreme. Yeah. As long as we try to master material nature means we have this Ishvara Bhava, this mood or mentality of controlling. Then we cannot become servants of Krishna. Service to the Lord is rendered in pure consciousness of one's spiritual identity. By service, one is immediately freed from material encumbrances. So this is something we have to meditate upon. And the more we realize it, the more we understand it, then we will not be disturbed by all of the ongoings in the material world, isn't it? I will leave the rest of because there's two fairly good sized paragraph left. We can keep that for tomorrow. And if there's any comment or question on what we have read. Yes.
Yesterday you were talking about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So,
Yes, today also.
yeah. So in Varnasrama context, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas.
Yeah.
So, but how it is how it's act on according to ashramas, because dharma everybody can follow, but the artha and kama is on the related to the ashrama. Somebody may not have that desire, and mostly they follow the dharma. So can you please explain like brahmacharis and
So you're asking in the context of dharma, artha, karma, and moksha, how it applies to different ashramas.
yeah. Yeah, mostly the grihastha and the vanaprastha
Well,
has the
one may think that because in the context of dharma, artha, and kama, and moksha, so one may think that artha is only for grihasthas, because brahmacharis don't work for money. They work actually. Everyone works at some. They work at some job or something. Also, people in Vanaprastha, they leave their occupation. Sannyas also. However, all individuals in the four ashrams need to understand about artha and kama, although they may not be themselves directly engaged. For example, we were mentioning briefly how there is the material conception or the motivated conception of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Just like we discussed at the beginning of the class, it's mentioned in the purport, how most people, they follow shastra, but the karma kanda section for some material gain, isn't it? So they follow dharma because they follow shastra, but they follow the section in the shastra that is not pure, that is not unmotivated. Gradually they will make progress, and one day they will come to the pure, unadulterated. So artha can be understood, we could say, on two levels. Kama also, artha, kama, and moksha. Moksha, again, Prabhupada in the purport explains that for most people, moksha means impersonal, mukti, merging into the impersonal. But actual moksha or mukti is just like we say, those who are nitya baddhas and nitya siddhas, or nitya mukta, eternally liberated. So artha should be understood on these two levels. For most people, artha means material gain for sense gratification. But for a devotee, artha means what are the basic, we could say, needs or necessities of life. We have basic spiritual necessities. Careful. We have basic material as well as basic spiritual necessities. Just like there is a very often quoted by Srila Prabhupada, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Artha, swa-artha. In this context, of course, it's speaking about the spiritual artha, But there is, on the material platform, we we especially learn to meet our basic material necessities by the simplified lifestyle recommended in the Shastra. Actually, it's a very important subject matter, which takes a little time actually to understand. Artha and kama on the material level can be based on selfish desire, or can be based on simple meeting one's necessity. What is that verse? One verse in the Bhagavatam where it describes that actually when we actually perform properly our spiritual duties and responsibilities, then all of our basic material necessities of life are met. So to answer the question, although generally brahmacharis or those in the three ashrams other than grihastha ashram, although they may not be working, they may not be earning money as such, they should know the difference. That's the point. They should know the difference between these two levels, these two dimensions of dharma, motivated, unmotivated, these two dimensions of artha, kama, and moksha. In other words, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha will be seen differently from someone who is practicing bhakti than someone who is, let's say, materialistic. So in other words, it is there, but it is seen or understood differently. For example, those who are brahmacharis, they need, that's part of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and especially those who are maybe older brahmacharis. Some people remain brahmacharis their whole life, or those who are at the level of vanaprastha and sannyas. Vanaprastha, those who are retired from life, they are meant to actually help others by giving guidance. For example, Vedic culture, very often teachers are those who will have been, retired from family life and who have a whole lifetime of experience that they can share and help with others. And of course, sannyasis. So these brahmachari ashram, vanaprastha ashram and sannyas ashram, they need to understand the subtleties of these four principles of dharma, artha, kama and moksha. Yeah. One verse that explains that very nicely, but it has the word kama. No, not that one. But anyway, it's okay. Any other? Quick? We have 2 minutes.
2 questions, one more.
Huh?
One more.
We have... Does anyone have a 2-minute question? Or a question?
2 minutes question only.
A 2-minute question.
Artha means
Well, if you're going to take 2 minutes for the question, then
answer,
there's no time for the answer.
answer and question 2 minutes only.
Ah, it's okay. Yes.
Artha means which one, Guru Maharaj? Money, this daily needs of food, that one.
Okay, your question is artha means money, or that's the verse I'm looking for. And that verse speaks about artha or kama, not in the sense of sense gratification, but of material needs, or of necessities of life. We have this body. Every day this body needs to drink, needs some food, isn't it? So that is kama, material necessities. But kama also can be taken in terms of sense gratification. I mean, even ordinary eating is sense gratification. So so when something is ultimately, all of our activities, we are meant to perform them so that they can help us to progress in spiritual life, isn't it? So it's like, devotees are meant to grow food. I mean, the Vedic culture encourages that very much. Prabhupada emphasizes that, especially in the context of modern day society where that practice has been abandoned. And because of that, so many, we're all suffering in different ways. So in other words, a devotee, like a karmi, will grow food. But the mentality and the purpose is very different. Like today, most farmers, they grow food as a business for selling, isn't it? And they just exploit the land more and more. But in the Vedic culture, we also grow food. But we grow food not for selling. We grow food primarily for our family needs. And therefore, we also don't exploit material nature. So the same activity is there. We're dealing with the land, growing food. But the mentality in which it is performed and the purpose of that activity is very different. So therefore, what is important is the consciousness in which we perform. Sarva kama dugamahi. That's the one I'm looking for. Sarva kama dugamahi. Kama. We may think all of our necessities of life come from the land. the clothes that we wear.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
If we were not to buy synthetic cloth, nowadays mostly synthetic cloth, but actually the natural way of growing food is by using cotton, for example, or different fibers that one can make natural cloth. So all of our cloth comes from the land, all of our food comes from the land, all of our medicine comes from the land, and even the house that we live in, the bricks or the wood, the stones, it comes from the land. So this verse is nicely explaining that in the Vedic culture encourages people to utilize in a natural way the products of material nature to meet our basic daily necessities of life for the purpose of advancing in Krishna consciousness. So in other words, the word kama is there. Sarva kama dugamahi. In this context, kama means material necessities. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So kama can mean either sense gratification, but in this verse, it doesn't mean sense gratification as we normally mean. It means meeting our basic material necessities of life. Every day we have to eat. Of course, we don't just eat. We offer the food. We honor prasadam like that. Yeah. So the same activity is there, but the consciousness is different. And that was your 2-minute question, which went beyond 2 minutes. But anyway, it's okay. Yeah. If there's any other part to that question, we can take it tomorrow. Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. They're most fortunate kukur.
They comes daily to listen Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Yesterday they were not there, still they came.
Yesterday?
Prabhuji was not there, still they came and said.